All right, good afternoon, chosen ones. It's your brother Zahir Naked, aka Zeus The Prophet, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of the Zeus Podcast. This is a platform built on truth, courage, faith, and legacy. And tonight we begin something powerful. Between Two Worlds, the Labzy story. A story about culture, a story about struggle, a story about becoming a man God called you to be. The Labzy story. Tonight's guest is a man shaped by two identities, Egyptian heritage and Melbourne life. A man who turned heartbreak into wisdom and pain into purpose. Content creator who built platforms that uplift others. This is the Labzy story. Family, help me welcome my first ever guest on the Zeus podcast, Martin Labzy Laban, an Egyptian brother, a proud Catholic, creator of Real Talk with Labzy, CEO of the Podcast Cartel, head of HR at Team Xenon, someone who I've got a lot of love and respect for, a real one of the chosen ones, someone whose honesty, hunger, and heart have inspired me for a long time. You've heard me talk about him, you've seen his work, you've felt the energy. This brother right here is someone I consider a mentor to me in his own right. A man who speaks truth with no filter and moves with purpose. Labzy, welcome to the table, my brother. Are you able to get on?
Yeah, yeah.
There we go. We found it. We got it. It's all good.
Thank you, Jesus. One spiritual attack happening on us, and it wouldn't let us go live. Thank you, God, that you're here now. Uh, in the name of Jesus Christ, family, we're gonna get through this. Brother, how are you doing, man? First of all,
I am on top of the world right now. Yeah, I'm blessed beyond blessed. Always.
thank you, Christ, for bringing the Holy Spirit in my brother Laddie. As a mentor of mine, man, you helped me through a lot of things, especially this live stream right now. It's like, I was wondering what's going on, but you're definitely a beautiful person, man. You're very patient. You're very kind, very compassionate about helping others, and that's very true at every moment, every time I talk to you. But how's your spirit today, brother? How's your spirit today?
I feel like when you are in the presence of Jesus, right? And I don't mean by just going to church. It's always thinking about Christ, praying all the time, whether if you're happy or sad, you know you've got to have God with you at all times. When you know that, that's when you really have nothing to fear, no doubts. Well, I mean, of course, you're going to have these types of things, but as obviously because it is normal for us as human beings. But when you know that God always has your back, you'll be fine. The very first quote I ever made before I started making more quotes and stuff was, "As long as you have faith, you'll be fine." That was my very first quote I ever made.
You'll be fine. I love that, man. That's beautiful. I'm gonna actually remember that for a long time. But I've definitely gone throughout my life, with that ingrained in my heart. Of course, that's wonderful. That's amazing for you to say that, man. All right, brother. Before the platforms and interviews, who were you? What were you like growing up?
I was a kid that was trying to figure out what is going on, basically. But it was just, I think, for what most Middle Eastern kids was, as long as you try to do the right thing and you try to make your family happy, try to make your friends happy, feels like you're doing something right. And then when you don't, it just feels like you're doing something wrong and you feel like you've disappointed everybody. And that's basically what that was like, basically in a nutshell. And what not many people understand about me is that I am first generation Egyptian Australian. So what that means is I was the only one born in Australia. Everyone else was born in Egypt. So that created that kind of like, where do I belong kind of situation where I'm too Arab for the Aussies and too Aussies for the Arabs, right? So it does have that effect on, where exactly do you belong? Because you do want to fit in. Like, I mean, I would say not just as children, but also as adults as well. Well, we do want to have friends. We do want to have a good support system. We do want to fit in somewhere, whether it's in a creative world or in reality, it doesn't really matter. And then when you become desperate of trying to fit in somewhere, you start to do things that is outside of your character, outside of your outside of who you are. And as much as it felt good at the very beginning, I didn't realize as a child where it was only people were painting a picture of me of what they thought I was. So what they thought I was someone who was funny, good with impressions, just very loud. And I'm still those things. I'm not going to say that part has never left me, but I had to learn when would be the right time to be, the funny one, the loud one or whatever, or the fun one. It was very difficult at the beginning because I would see people with a lot of friends and stuff like that, and I felt like I don't have that. And also being Middle Eastern as well, like going to there wasn't really any Middle Eastern. I felt like I was the only very few Middle Easterns going to school and high school as well. Yeah, because everyone, Egyptian, everyone was going to St. Mary Coptic Orthodox College, which is in Kuluru, right? So every Egyptian was going there. So it was hard to, and obviously when you're not doing that, because obviously it's a private school as well, and because my family could only do their best of trying to get the best education possible, the goal was my parents just wanted me to go to school and pay attention to the teacher and not care about the kids, and then obviously be at home, and then we'll be the Middle Eastern family, like trying to bring Egypt mentality to Australia. When in reality, when you've got millions of races, millions of mindsets, millions of everything, you can't, you don't even know, again, that makes it worse on you don't even know where you belong there too, So, and, so yeah, don't get me wrong, I did have friends that, did have, that look out for me and stuff like that, in time. But then at the end of the day, I've noticed that, in year 12, I used to always be with the group a little bit, and then I would walk around by myself. And then I thought about myself. I'm like, why am I going by myself? Like, why can't I? And when I realized that as much as I was trying to hang out with people, I was trying to figure out who I was too, and going through a lot of challenges, especially if we look at it from a religious perspective as well. Like, I didn't realize how God was always on my side, always. Because every time when I would go to the toilets in high school and I see kids smoking and stuff, and they would offer me, and I'm just be like, yeah, no way, I'm not going through that again. Nah, no way. So I think that was the protection that God was trying to give me, and I didn't even realize. And I've served, me as a Catholic boy, I was obviously raised in the church as well. So Saint Joseph's Melkite Catholic Church in Fairfield was where I was baptized in 90, yeah, it would have been 91. So and I also used to altar boy for 11 years. So I was always a part of the church, because I also had an uncle as well who was one of the deacon leaders, who was also was looking after me as well and trying to teach me a few things as well. And the reason why I stopped was because that when he passed away, it just didn't feel the same to do it, And I was always under the impression that if you do serve in the church, that, you'll get, basically, they basically taught me without saying it like this, basically saying that if you pray, you do the right thing, you'll go to heaven. And then anything you want, you'll get it as long as you do the right thing. Right. And I think as a child, I can only register and understand to best of my ability because of my age. Right. So they were basically saying that how I understood it in my brain was Jesus is like a genie. He'll give you whatever you want as long as you pray, right? When the truth of the matter is, when you do pray for something, God gives you an opportunity to be that thing. So whatever it is that you're praying for, God will give you the opportunity to be that thing, right? And that took me a long time to figure it out. So, and then a lot of hardships started when I was it was about 18, going on to 19. And when all these, from not finishing school to my friends passing away, as well as my two family members passing away of cancer, and parents divorcing, all in a matter of 3 years, right? As well as not going into university. I couldn't even get accepted into Vic Uni, as well as, even as a mature student, I would just get declined all the time, which my father and I tried at least a good 3 times and rejected, which is very strange, because as a mature student, you can still apply So, and I don't know if it was just something that God was like, no, I don't need you here. We're going to go on a different path, right? So it was still a time to really understand what is going on. Why can't I be like everyone else? Why can't I be doing everything like everyone else? You know, part of society, basically. And I don't know. And then I would just see, and I would just see, and I would just, because I used to work at Sunglass Hut as well. This would have been 2013 to 2016. And when there was a moment where I would just people watch, because where we were was like a little kiosk in the middle. And I would just people watch, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, let's kind of observe for a little bit. Let's observe. Let's try to watch people and see what they do with their life. And it really shocked me on how you see so many people that are just very sad. Like you look at someone, you feel like you just want to either give them a hug or you want to like talk to them, see if they're okay. They're customers at the end of the day. There's people walking. And I just got a little confused. I'm like, well, if these people are working, these people are, jobs or have jobs or whatever, and they've got families, they've got houses, they should be happy. Right? Because this is something that I want. I didn't realize that I wanted what everyone else wanted, but then I wasn't thinking of the other side of the coin of those things. So it's not just about praying for something and getting it. It's understanding the other side of the coin with what comes with what. It's the responsibility side of things. And then finally, the hard times that I went through, the hardest was, this is all I do pray for all the people that are going through suicide right now, people that have got suicide thoughts. I'm praying for them right now because I used to go through that. I used to go through my suicide phase was because that it was just, obviously it was all build up. So obviously no university, no struggling to find a job, no, things weren't working, friends, family passing away. And there was just so much push of, trying to get a job and they're treating me, and then people, even family treating me like I'm look, how I thought about it in my mind was, I feel like I am a burden. I feel like I'm now just wasted everything. Like, I don't know, because it was around that time where everyone was going to uni, getting into relationships, getting married, having a house, etc. And then it feels like I'm behind in the 8 ball, basically. And what was interesting is that I've seen a lot of relationships come and go all the time. People that are getting divorced left, right, and center. People that are struggling. They used to be like having money, like being up here, down to down here, and it was just really confusing, like what was going on. And then what our Lord and Savior opened my eyes with is basically said to me that just because you think they have what they want, that doesn't mean they either worked for it or their souls are not full.
Just because you got what you want doesn't mean that you're always blessed.
That's right. It's a lot, but so now I had to really learn, because again, I've been a single man. I've been a single man for 11 years now, going on the 12, and I've learned that you have to learn to be who you are as a person. You have to not allow society to push you to do whatever it is you want to do. And I would say the biggest challenge is trying to help your own family understand what your gifts are. What you're trying to do with your life. But when you've got a family that were born and raised in the 50s and 60s, to them it's just like, you just basically be a part of the rat race. Because they don't understand what a rat race is. They don't understand that. All they understand is you get a full-time job, you take care of your family and everything like that, and then that's it, you'll be happy. Being selfish is the worst thing.
No, yeah, then generation was a little bit different. It's like they probably grew up in a generation where they didn't have electricity or color TV. They probably started work at the age of 12 or 13 years old. It's a little bit different than our generations.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. But the thing is, the one thing I just wish they would learn is that they would invest a little bit more on difference between the Middle East and obviously Australia, right? Where obviously in Australia, like, you have more options, you have more, there's different, like there's multiple answers to a problem. And also the problem with the schools and the education system is they believe that everyone has to get the same right answer, but we have to make it sound like from different ways. But if the answer is all along the line the same, then, that's when you get to progress. And if you don't do that, then it feels like you're a failure. And that's what I think even some adults still have this mentality to this day that believe that if you fail, that means that's it, you're finished. Because the education system has taught us that. It had nothing to do with what exactly is your gift? What exactly is the thing that makes you unique? What is that thing that God told you to do? What is that thing? No one teaches them that, unfortunately.
By the way, shout out to Sister Jacqueline David, who's watching at the moment. It's the older sister of my very good friend of mine who passed away recently. Just sorry to cut you off. I just want to acknowledge whoever joins us as well. I think that's very important. That's something that, I think you taught me as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, welcome, Sister Jacqueline, and it's great having you here. Guys, have any questions or any comments?
If you have any questions or anything like that, go right ahead.
Go ahead, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, so now it was interesting because I think this would have been about 2017, I think it was. I got a random call from a friend that I I was in high school with, right? And this is after when I finally found a full-time job. This was after all the mess and everything like that, and losing my license 5 times, as well as, being on my P's for 11 years. It's all of that. And now it just feels like things were coming slowly. And this is where I got that call. He said to me, "Hey, Martin, how you doing?" I'm like, "How?" His name was Charlie. And I said, he goes, "How you doing, bro?" He goes, "Hey, bro, the reason why I called is because that I'm doing a show for my assessment at uni, da da da." I said, "Because I know you're very good at what you do, and this is before I did Real Talk with Labzy, by the way. So this is way before that." And so I got that call, and he said, "I need to do, I'm doing this thing for my uni." I said, "Yeah, sure, bro. I'm happy to help, whatever." I said, "Where?" I said, where are we going?" He goes, "We're going to do it in Victoria University in Footscray." And mind you, this was the same people that rejected me trying to study. So, and mind you, obviously you have to pay for being a part of Victoria University, but no, because I'm a part of the assignment, I just walked right in.
Yeah, nice.
You know what I mean? So what does that tell us? It tells us that God will give you the opportunity there, but it's gonna be done His way, right? Not by the society's way. So when I walked in there, I'm just like, wow. I actually took a moment. I said, wow, these people rejected me many years ago, and now I just walked right in, and then now I'm a part of someone's assessment. I wanted to be here. This is what I wanted to do, right? And we ended up becoming our own little duo, doing our own little show called Conspiracy Antagonizers, which I'll never forget. We did like a few episodes and stuff like that, and it was a good time. It was a good time. It also helped doing interviews and stuff like that, and also being a guest as well. And it was all seeds being planted. Even I didn't mean to plant them. And so when Real Talk with Labzy came in, it was when Charlie introduced me to a man that has his own kind of like media organization that works alongside Victoria University. And I had a chat with him, and I said to him, "Look, I'm willing to join or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, cool, man. It's only, this amount of money to join in for the year. You can have, if you want to be a part of the team, you want to, or just want to be a member." I said, "Well, I'll be honest. I just want to have my own show." And he's like, "Okay, cool. Like, tell me about your show. Like, tell me your idea about it." I said, "Well, I want to have a show." Originally, it was a talk show because the inspiration came from, what's it called? The inspiration came from The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, if anybody remembers that show, like 10 years ago. And the reason why I loved that show was because that he was a Scottish comedian, loved his work. Everything was on the improv side, but still professional at the same time. So he can still be him, but he kept the balance, which is perfect. That's where it inspired me to do. It was originally supposed to be a talk show, which kind of led into the podcasting world, because obviously podcasting in that time was starting to really it was there, but it wasn't really as much, it wasn't promoted and like what it is now. So,
That's
and then,
beautiful. Obviously, a lot of spirituality, lot of, you're more religious than you are spiritual, or are you more spiritual than you are religious? Both.
I would say more on both, because I'm gonna say this, right? I hate religion, but I love Jesus. I hate religion. I hate Jesus. Why is that? Because you have to understand that Jesus did not promote Christianity. He did not say, if you do this A, B, C, D, you're gonna go to heaven. He didn't do any of that. Religion was the one that did that, right?
Well, Jesus didn't come to create a religion. He came to spiritually awake us,
Correct.
and for us to find Christ consciousness.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's about. And what people don't understand is religion is supposed to be about having a relationship with God. That's all what it's supposed to be,
Into then.
right? It's not about what goods you can do or whatever. And it's about you being on the right path. And it is very hard, because even the Bible says the path to God is always the narrow, while evil is very wide, right? And this is where the discipline have to come in, because you have to learn how to be strong. You have to learn how to be not tempted. You have to learn not to continuously sin and expect forgiveness all the time. No, it doesn't work like that, right? If you do sin, but you are going on the path of God, then those sins are forgiven automatically, because you're trying your best. You're doing your best. It's not about, because look, you could be very surprised on how many people claim they are Catholic, but when they sin, they just like, oh, Jesus will forgive me. It's all right. Don't worry. But the Bible said, no, I don't know you. Well, it says, I don't know you, with those types of people.
There's a lot of things I found growing up as a Christian as well. My father was a high priest of the village. And there's a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, I don't want no one else to take offense to this, listening to this, but in my opinion, there's a lot of loopholes in the Bible. There's a lot of stuff that you can tell is man-made, and the stuff that you can tell is godly, that no person could have ever created. But like, that's when even the first canonized saint, the thief on the cross next to Jesus, he was a sinner all his life, a thief, what society considered an ugly human being. Jesus forgave him because he opened his heart up to Christ in the end. I think that's very important for people to realize. Like, it doesn't give you the go-ahead to go and do bad shit all your life and then come and say, oh, no, but Jesus got my back. But with the intention. But as long as you're aware that Jesus does have your back, but he doesn't want you to sin. But then again, in this day and age, we've misconstrued sinning with, like a lot of the seven deadly sins, greed, gluttony as well. We misinterpret all these things. Now we can go into depth in regards to religion and spirituality a bit later, brother. But I did want to ask you a few more questions, like your past and what shaped you to become the amazing human being I know you to be. The darkness you had to escape before you stepped into your purpose, brother.
Well, it is an interesting one, because I'm going to share this with you, because I know you are my guy, my Habibi, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to be a very powerful one, and it might give you some chills. This is back in 2014, right? And this would have been just after? Yeah, it would have been just after. Yeah. So just after my suicide kind of attempt, we'll say, right? When I had my very first relationship, my very first girlfriend, and that obviously ended, I was completely destroyed. I felt lower than I ever became. And it started off in my dreams, where I actually saw the Grim Reaper himself. And now it was interesting, because the dream started with the shopping center being all destroyed and crumbled, and except one. And that was the shop that my ex used to work at as well. So that was the only one that was all lights and working functionally and everything. Everything else was all completely destroyed. The first dream, I would be walking around, and then I actually saw something like in the distance there, and it was just coming right at me, coming. And it felt like every time I blinked, it came closer and closer really fast. And that's when that was that. So that was the first dream. So I woke up right after that. Second dream, same scenario, everything like that. And then when I looked at the place again, I looked up the place that my ex was working, and that dark figure wasn't there. And as soon as I turned around, he was right behind me, and then just basically just tried to slice. Right, that was the second dream, and then the third dream, same scenario, but this time was a little bit different. He was sitting on top of the place of the shop, and then this time jumped out, came to me and slammed me on the wall, and in the darkest of eeriest of sounds that I was able to hear, and I still remember it, like hard to really explain, but what I can say, it was very dark and eerie. And and he said this, so he didn't harm me, he didn't try to attack me with a scythe or anything like that, but when he grabbed me on the wall and slammed me on the wall, he said to me, "You're better than that." So I'll say that one more time. He slammed me on the wall. He didn't, with his eerie voice, he said, "You're better than that." And that's when I woke up, right?
I'm just taking some notes down as well, and that's very important for me to, really understand what you're saying and to hear you out.
And then finally, and this is where, I don't know, something shifted in my spirit. Like I realized that and this is what people not understand, is that I saw the Grim Reaper himself. I saw him.
What did he look like, brother?
To my memory, so he did have the dark cloak and everything like that. Parts of him at the bottom were very ripped, few holes at the bottom. And this was the third dream, when he was just about to attack me, or like, slam me on the wall. I remember him holding his scythe like this, and I didn't see a face, I didn't see a skull or anything like that. There was just blinks of eyes, and they were red.
Yeah.
Right? And then so he was like this, and that's when he just jumped, and then flying towards me, and then grabbed me, and then slapped me on the wall. And that's when he said, "You're better than that."
Right.
And that's what woke me up. Right? And I think that kind of sparked something in my spirit as well, because it was supposed to teach me that you need to face your demons. You need to face whatever it is that was holding you back. Because every time I would see my ex or whatever, I would always have that anxiety attack. I would always be scared or anything like that, because I don't know what this person's going to do to me for some reason. Like, the amount of the thoughts in my head was just too much, right? Until I had to build the courage to, because there was a bit of drama happening between my shop and the other shop as well. And obviously my ex was causing a lot of dramas, a lot of bullshit and rumors, etc. And then when I went to the manager that my ex's shop at the time, I said, "Look, I'm really sorry about all this. I don't know why she's doing all this stuff, blah, blah, blah." But then that's when things started to change. What do we do? Like, what can we do? We can't keep this drama up. Da, da, da. So we started to work together, and it turns out there was going to be another manager that was coming in. And then when this new manager was trying to come in, my ex was trying to do the same thing, trying to talk shit or whatever. That's when they turned against her, right? And they turned against her. And then and what was interesting, when my ex got shut down, and then I think it was like 2 nights later. Yeah, it was two nights later after that. The same Grim Reaper dream, but this time it was the opposite, which meant that the shop was destroyed, and the rest of the center was functioning fine. So it was the complete opposite in this time. And then
in the first dream, the Grim Reaper appeared to you. The second dream, he tried to slice you.
Yep.
And then in the third dream, he said, "You're better than that." And then the next dream after that was the complete opposite.
That's right. So I still saw the Grim Reaper. I still saw him. But this time, he looked at me, and then he ended up flying away. He ended up just flying away. And then that was it. I was just like, wow. And that was the moment. And that
was relief? for you?
It was definitely relief. It was also definitely relief, but it also gave me that next level of confidence, not being scared of anything because when I heard the phrase, if you want your demons to stop chasing you, all you got to do is turn around. When I believed that phrase, right, I believed it. I believed it because, and then when you start to face whatever it is that is harming you or making you scared or whatever, you're actually more okay than you think. You're actually more protected than you think, right? You just now these days, I'm not really scared of anything. I can have a bikie with millions of tattoo on his face or whatever trying to threaten me, and I won't be scared at all. As really weird as that might sound, like I'm just like, bro. I saw Malthael himself. I saw the Grim Reaper himself, bro. You were just a mere mortal to me. Relax.
You know, I've seen the Grim Reaper and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I definitely wanted to touch base about that as well, about the heartbreak, about the growth, and that's very important for me. And you know, you as a person as well. Now we've had many conversations in the past, and you know, I want to dive deep into this. So you spoke publicly about your heartbreak, brother. So that would happen in 2014, right?
Yes, 2014. Yes, correct.
And emotional closure. So what did that teach you about yourself?
It taught me about what I didn't want in a person. Because how the actual first breakup happened was, I said to my ex, and I said to her straight up, I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I wasn't taught any of these things. I wasn't taught anything, whatever. And I don't know. I just felt like looking back at it, there was no friendship there. There was no because I was still trying to raise my confidence. I never asked a girl out in my life. I was really scared to do that because I was scared of the rejection or whatever. And then when I finally found the courage to ask out the girl at the time, which was my ex, and that's when she said yes, and I got a little confused. I'm like, okay. So yeah, got a number and everything like that. We went on dates and stuff, and yeah, so it was just it wasn't, I just I didn't receive the help that I deserved. And even after multiple conversations and multiple times or whatever, and then all of a sudden she just decides to just disappear for like 6 days and not saying anything or anything like that. I'm just like, okay, I don't know what's happening here. And I'm scared. I'm asking the family, like, you know, is she okay? Is she gone? Like, she hasn't said anything or whatever. And they're like, no, she's here. Like, she's fine or whatever. I'm like, well, she's not answering my calls or anything like that. I don't know what's going on.
So how were you guys together?
But this was like, what was I Bazika for? It would have been like, no, it was 3 months. It was 3 months that I was with her. So it was very like on the short time, right? And I didn't realize that this person, she was very, very on the troubled side, like very like, yeah, like she wasn't used to someone like me. But after that breakup and then after the whole situation with the Grim Reaper as well, like it raised the confidence. I'm like, okay, now I know what I don't want. I want now someone who is something that because obviously I was already 23, 24. So I was trying to find my wife, right? I wanted someone who was wife material, was able to look after me mentally, right? And then I would do my best to, you know, I wanted to be the husband that they prayed God about.
Yes.
That's what I wanted, you know?
Yeah, I can relate to that, brother. You know, that provided the protector as well. But did your parents teach you all that stuff growing up? Did that come from your friends? Like, did that advice come like you wanting to be the best husband you can be? Was that from examples of how your parents were and stuff?
I would say no, because already in 20, because when my parents divorced, it was about between 2021. Yeah, it was 2021 when they divorced, right? And I felt like I did not want to speak to my family at all about these types of things because being in the Middle Eastern culture, you know, when community was obviously a big thing, they would look at, obviously, if the Middle Easterns are in a community and then you're ready to date, you're ready to start to do all this type of stuff, they would introduce you to someone, right, within the community. Right? So that way you're with, yeah, right? So naturally, but because my family wasn't a part of any community at all. It sort of kind of made it difficult, and I just felt like they just obviously with the age gap of my parents, it's hard for them to really be like, well, no, they don't know anything about the birds and the bees. They don't know anything about that. They're just like, oh yeah, when you get married, you have a baby, and yeah, the only time you have this, the sex thing, you only have that when you're having a baby.
I blame them either. And I
I
suppose
can't. No,
they
that's
weren't
right.
their parents either, and that's part of the generational trauma that we try to break as well.
Yeah, and what's interesting. And what's interesting is that like I just felt like they still don't get involved with Australian culture, because obviously there are many things that they don't agree with, which is fine. But at the same time, it's like, well, you chose to come to a completely different country, and it just seemed like you only relied on success and community for a so-called better life, Because the goal, look, I understand the whole goal is my father wanted me to be better than him. Of course, right? Every parent wants that. That's the ultimate goal with every parent, right? But for whose benefit? Is it for the child's benefit or for your benefit? That's the question, right? Because this is where, and now this is what, if you look at it from a religious perspective, if God told you, Zeus, I want you to go on this path right now, right? And you say to your father, God, look, I need to do this because God told me to do this. And your father turned around and said, no, because no, you can't do this because this goes against the culture. This does this or whatever. And then you're forced to listen to your family because, they're the ones that brought you to the world. They feed you, they protect you. So it's only natural to listen to them as a child, right? But I think what parents fail to understand is that when they have a gift and they know their child has a gift and they want to pursue it, it makes it difficult for them to be happy because because the parents are trying to protect them too much. Right? I don't know if you ever remember the movie Finding Nemo. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yeah, I remember playing it for my daughter when she was young. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So there was a scene where Marlin would say, "I promised Nemo I would never let anything happen to him." Right? And Dory says, "That's a funny thing to promise." And he says, "What?" He says, "Well, you can't let nothing ever happen to him because nothing will ever happen to him."
You gotta let them experience it for themselves, right?
Because they have to learn to make their own mistakes. They have to they have to know what it's like to fall, right? They have to, I feel that, look, I will never understand because I'm not a parent myself, right? I can't speak on that. But what I can say is that I definitely support my child if they feel like this is their gift, this is what they want to do, and I help them alongside that, then obviously I can't, I'll be very blessed. That already tells me that by them doing what God told them to do, they're already on their way to be better than me.
Amen.
So going back to, with the family and stuff, like trying to explain to them, these types of things and trying to find a wife and stuff like that, it's hard to really educate them and really, again, because I think from my family history, like, a lot of history has repeated itself from my mother and then also my father, and then now going on to my sister as well. And I felt like I broke the generational curse with a lot of things obviously happened in growing up and stuff like that, and these types of things, right? And then there was also a period where I was heavily abused by my father because he was very scared that I was just going to be a homeless man. I was going to be a failure, and the abuse kind of went a little too far because obviously as Middle Easterns, we do discipline the kids. We still show them love at the same time. But because I felt like there was only more toughness than love, just felt like, I don't know what, you just always being scared of your father instead of loving him. And and not just me, even my sister felt the same way too. And I think me being the youngest, obviously the abuse would go from my dad to my sister and then my sister to me, because obviously she would let her frustrations out on me because I'm the youngest one, right? And And it just felt like she would always be getting in trouble all the time, and I'm not getting in trouble. And yeah, she always loves to stir the pot in order to get me in trouble, right? She has evolved from that which is always, thank God for that. But it is very interesting because as much as she is Catholic on paper, she's even said to me that she's not really much of a believer. Not much of a believer per se, but like she knows that Jesus exists, but just again, like she believes she has her mentality on, well, I don't know. She just doesn't feel that, and which, look, I said, that's fine. That's totally up to you. But I mean, she knows that I have a big relationship with God. She knows that. She sees it. She sees the post, she sees the stories and everything like that. But I would do my best to try to help her along the way as well when it comes to with her kids and with my niece and nephew and these types of things. But at the same time, she has to figure it out because she's the mother. Hence why, if you ask mum, if I ask my mother, I say, well, anything that she'll do for me like that, no problem. But if I did that when I was a kid, she wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah, same as my mother. God bless her. She's still with us, but yeah, look, she didn't have none of the direction. She carried the generational trauma from her parents, from her sisters as well, and that was brought upon us as well, three boys. And I think she did try to do her best. It's not easy having her husband. My father was murdered when I was 2 years old, so she tried to raise us the best way she could, and the only way that she knew how to, but still carried a lot of that generational trauma that I'm still trying to, break free from and destroy till this day as well. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, we will never. I tell this to people all the time. I say, how you were brought into this world is not your fault. How you were brought to this world is not your fault. And it is bad enough that we are healing from traumas that we didn't even start.
Exactly.
But
I'm just writing that down. Yeah, continue.
And that's what made me understand that once I realized that, because I started to think about all this during 2020, during lockdowns, right? So I was trying to figure out, obviously we were in our houses, we couldn't do anything, but it gave me a chance to really think about, why has this happened to me? Why? Well, it's the whys, basically. Like, we got to travel back. We got to figure out, okay, why was dad like this? Why was mum like this? We got to try to, was it really my fault? Was it really their direction? And then obviously in the world of mental health and psychology and stuff like that, you realize that whatever traumas that they had, they didn't heal from it. They didn't talk about it, and they would share a few things, but they would never share the faults. They would never share what brought the trauma, because they don't want to. They try to bury it. They try to bury the traumas.
I didn't know how to deal with it either.
That's right.
They had no choice but to bury it, right?
Yeah. And the psychologists always say that you can't bury your traumas. You really can't. So because of whatever that someone says or someone does, and you see it, whether it's a minor or a major thing, sometimes it will actually trigger something from your traumas from what you're seeing.
Right.
And that's the most crazy thing about the mind. And then because there was a period where I really hated my father for the longest of time, from the beatings that he gave me that went too far, as well as him accusing me of stealing money from him twice, which never happened. And it was just, I just gave up, right? There was a period where I just gave up. I felt like I just didn't ever want to see him ever again, and he just didn't know how to make it up to me. He didn't know, there was no accountability as well, only pride, which was the thing that has made me hate for the longest of time. And this is also another crazy thing, right? It's amazing in culture how pride is everything, but in religion, pride is a sin.
Well, I suppose there's different kinds of pride, like me, I'm proud of my children, that's a different kind of pride. Whereas in self-pride is no, I'm too proud to do this or to apologize to this person, or there's different kinds of pride, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and I definitely agree with that. Look, there's pride, there's positive pride and negative pride, right?
Right.
But because we've been taught for the longest of time that negative pride is, the strong, we don't have to show feeling or anything like that. Like, that's pride right there. Like, to me, that's negative pride. That's not positive pride. It can be motivational in a sense because no matter what you're going through in life, you just got to keep going and try not to think about it too much, I get that, but at the same time, it's going to bite you in the ass later.
Right.
It really
Right.
does. And that's where now it's just like, well, thinking about all this stuff, I'm like, well, and yet I'm still living with my father. It's like, well, that normally means that, he's doing his best to try to do right by you. But, it's a little hard to when he's still stuck in his old ways. He's, like you just feel like I can't educate him. You can't, right? Even with the show that I have, he doesn't know anything about that to this day, right? And part of me wishes he knew and really understood what this was the gift from God that was given to me, and knowing that he will never understand it because it's not something that it doesn't align with his understanding. That's the thing that made it hard. So that's why I don't tell him anything, to be honest. So
you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink,
correct.
So as much as you love the person, for years I tried that with my family members, and even though I was the youngest of three boys, like I was always the good. Well, I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but I was always trying to like help the situation. Always tried to see the light of the situation, try to make the best of it. Even when others couldn't see it, I'll say, "No, it's all right. It's gonna be all right. We'll get through this." Trying to be the peacemaker and the person that tries to always uplift people. Especially those family members who never, at least once, tried to take accountability for their actions.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes, especially when you've got this gift to get from God, as I mentioned before, and you want to share it with your family, and then it gets either shut down, not because they want to shut you down, but it's like they just don't understand it, or they believe that does not fall into the category of success to them, right? So that's why they disregard it.
So I think to them, their success is like having a couple of $1 billion, Like, I think success was being famous to them, because that's what, them growing up, that's what the epitome of successful person is that you had to have a lot of money, you had to be on TV or whatever the case may be. In my eyes, like I'm not a rich man, but, I got two beautiful children, my family that loves me, got food in the fridge, bills are being paid, got a roof over her head. I'm richer than I actually think.
Absolutely. And I think even if we go to, because when I went to Egypt in October, right, and which was much needed, was because that I needed to remind myself on how lucky I am, right? Yes, there are a few differences obviously with Egypt to Australia, but you look at because I see a lot of homeless people. I see a lot of roads. Like, it just doesn't look like. I'm saying Egypt is dirty, but I'm saying like the way, if you look at the inner suburbs of Cairo or stuff like that, like it's very open, very like rocks everywhere and rubbish everywhere and stuff like that. And it made me realize, like, being in a country like Australia, like, everything's well maintained. Like, the roads are very maintained. Everything's always clean. You don't see like a batch of rubbish everywhere because eventually someone's going to be cleaning that up. We've got councils that clean that up and everything like that. So it's very well presented.
Absolutely, compared to there. So speaking of Egypt, how was your trip? I moved a little bit. How was your trip? How was Egypt? What did you get up to? Who did you meet? Did you meet your potential future wife there?
If I was able to flirt in Arabic, I would have had at least 4. But yeah, I don't know. I do not know how to flirt in Arabic, to be honest with you. I'll be like, Habibti, brother, I'm originally from Australia, but I guess you here, I don't have Masjid house. It was the first time in 25 years since I left Australia. So it was beyond excitement. And the reason why it took so long, especially 25 years, was because that, again, going through what I've gone through, trying to find a full-time job and everything like that, it was just very hard to just, book a plane ticket and then just go, you know what I mean? So, and then when that opportunity finally came, where I was confident to say that I'm more financially stable than I am now, going from negative in my account to having 5 figures in my savings. Now it's just like, all right, we've really earned this. We can enjoy this and we're not going to regret it whatsoever. Right. Because I was speaking to a friend yesterday and he said, look, there's a difference between going back to your roots and going on a holiday. There's a complete difference because when you're going into your roots, you are going into a place where 5,000 years of history is right in front of you. And that courses through your veins. My Egyptian blood goes through my veins, right? I don't care what anyone tells me, if you're born in Australia, you're Australian, mate. I said, no, my blood comes from 5,000 years of history. You cannot name me nothing, right? And what made me more proud to be an Egyptian was that I've got the rest of the world having the pyramids on their bucket list.
Yeah, pretty much.
I do not know anyone who does not have Egypt or the pyramids in their bucket list. I don't know someone who hasn't.
Well, whether they have it on their bucket list or not, you can't deny that it's one of the most profound and structures in the world, one of the 7 or 8 wonders of the world,
Yes, absolutely. So when we got there, I also saw family as well. So we were seeing family and they haven't seen me in 25 years as well. So they've seen how grown up I am. And gladly my Arabic is so much better than when I was a kid. So that's good. But so I was able to have like conversations and stuff like that. Even I got good wisdom from my uncle, from my mum's side, which that was a blessing within itself. Because I told him everything that was basically caught him up to everything that happened from last time I saw him. And he even said, and especially one of his daughter isn't married, and she's she's a bit more older, but she's not married because she just hasn't met the right person, right? And my cousin, obviously he works the job, he's married, he's got a kid and another one on the way. My uncle said that you just do what you feel is happy, what you feel is right. You do what you feel is right. And even my cousin had to explain to my uncle that, there are still families out there that still pressure their kids to make sure they get the perfect scores in school and stuff like that, or else they're going to fail in life and these types of things. And I think that's what kind of brought that mentality to my family too, right? And because I was talking to him about, there was a time where on the Arabic channel where they were talking about why there were suicides of 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds that were like, they were mostly men because they didn't finish school, or they failed in school. So they killed themselves because they felt like they failed the family. Right. And that's when I said to him, well, look at that, because it felt like, because going through my suicidal phase, I definitely understood that. And it's like, well, because they do everything right by family, but not by God.
Right.
You know
So
what I'm saying?
It's going to take a moment to explain to everybody what generational trauma is. It's like the emotional, spiritual, and psychological pain that is passed down from one generation to the next. It's not just what someone lived through, it's what they couldn't heal.
Because I found this Instagram story ages ago. No, it was like last week or something. And it said, first bully a child has is an unhealed parent.
Right.
So if you have an abusive father or mother, it's because that they are not healed. That's what it is.
Well, everything. Survival instincts, tension, and that's brought upon by belief as well. We are taught to expect, life, danger, abandonment, betrayal, scarcity, all that kind of time.
Absolutely. So, and that's when my uncle just said, no, you just do what you feel is right. Because I told him about my podcast and everything like that, and all the achievements that I've done and everything like that. Right. And he goes, bro, that's amazing. Like, Habibi, I've blessed you. Like, well, do that, because that was what you're supposed to do. And mind you, this man is the same age as my father, a completely different mindset.
Right.
That was the part that shocked me.
It's like, how did your uncle know this, but somehow it didn't transfer to your father, type of thing?
Oh, I don't know.
Because every child is different, I suppose, in the family, like every child is unique as an individual, but they kind of realize that, like you're the person, one person God chose to break the cycle for them.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I mean, I try not to tell people that I feel that God has chosen me for certain things. I try to keep that to myself because I'd rather keep that between me and God, you know? And that's
Right.
something that I've learned to trust and really understand how God works. Because something interesting really, really happened to me. This actually happened to me Friday, right? So 2 days ago. I want to bring it up on my saved thing as well. Now, I was invited to a Bucks party on the Friday, right? Now, we all know what happens in a Bucks party in Rye on a weekend. We all know what happens. So it was interesting because a friend of mine was getting married. He was the one that, and also his friends were organizing like the stripper and stuff like that, right? And what was interesting is that when the stripper arrived, she did not acknowledge me whatsoever. She acknowledged everyone else, but she acknowledged everyone else, got everyone involved in what she was doing except me, right? And budget again, I was still very present. I was still, what was going on, like, all that type of stuff.
You're very
And
right.
and I accepted it. I realized that, like, she's not really involving me in anything or anything like that. And what was crazy is that when I went on my phone and to go to Instagram and when I think got refreshed, I am going to send you this as well, and you think it's pure coincidence. Something that said, "Full of beauty, God calls it a trap. Sin always looks good before it bites." I can never pronounce this right. Ecclesiastes, something like that. But chapter 7, verse 26, KJV. I find more bitter than death the woman. No, and I find more bitter, yeah. And then whose heart it snares and nets, as her hands as bands, whose pleaseth God all escape from. But the sinner shall be taken by her. So they're talking about OnlyFans, pornography, fornication, adultery, strip clubs, prostitutes. These are the levels of sin, right? And obviously there's a picture of a female, and then obviously a man sitting down, and he's labeled as the lustful man, right? And that's where I said to myself, I said, this another reason why God exists, because that is not just coincidence. I'm seeing like a stripper with all the friends and everything like that. They're having a good time, right? And then not having the acknowledgement for me, and seeing that post as soon as I go on my phone and seeing that in front of me, that is powerful. That's how you know that God is trying to help you understand that is what the lustful men do. I don't care if they do it for fun or they have an addiction or whatever, but if sin is in the presence, right, someone's going to get tempted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I see what you're saying. It's very important for a lot of people to realize, just like the old saying goes, build it and they will come. If you build a strip club, you're going to have people going in there and naturally sing, like back in the day, I used to work as a bouncer for 10 years. I used to run a few strip clubs as head of security. It was
You
very
would have saw it all. You would have saw it all.
And yeah, I got tempted many times as well. And I was married at this time too. And so I was very clear about who I was and what I stood for as well. I had many offers. Some of the girls tried to set me up as well. I said, Zeus, we're going to give you a free lap dance, like you've been great, this and that. I said, do you see the ring? We know you're married, but, like you've been such a wonderful person. You've looked after us. And now we're going to give you a free lap dance. I said, thank you. But no, thank you.
Yeah, of course. You have to reject them respectfully, basically.
Yeah, I work with these people as well. I have to, be in the same space as them. But it's just how the industry is, just how it goes, man. And they're very conniving as well. They're very, very sneaky. They try to set each other up as well. I had one girl saying, "Oh, could you please kick the other stripper out now? She's trying to get, actually, she said to me, she goes, can you kick that guy out that's standing next to that girl?" And actually, he tried to smack me on the ass. I go, yeah, okay. So I called for backup straight away. I go, George, could you come through in that? Because I was wary always from the very get go that these dancers are very conniving as well. So as soon as George came, Bruce, thanks for coming and telling me, because that girl, she's jealous of that girl, and she's trying to cut her money, and she's trying to get her kicked out. So
Yeah.
it's a very, very lustful, very, very sinful place. But, because I worked on the other side of that, of that world, trying to protect everybody, try to keep people safe, I sort of knew there was also traps that come along with it. And most men don't realize this, but what you're saying is very important, of course.
Yeah, man. So, and yeah, and then that's when I've always felt like God has always been by my side, especially in this situation as well, you know? And then I think even when I went to Egypt as well, and being on a camel, well, that was fun, you know? Riding a camel, it was just hilariously fun because I really wanted to. And then being in the pyramids, the present in the pyramids there too was just like, it was just, I was just silent, and I was really just taking everything in. I remember I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't singing Aladdin, Arabian Nights or anything like that. But then I was just quiet. I was just really just enjoying, really just soaking it in on where my heritage is. And even with the stuff that I bought from Egypt is, now I carry 3 pendants, right? One is my history, one is my heritage, and one is my faith.
Yeah, I told you, I love that when you showed me last time, It
Yeah.
was sick sound. Right?
And
So that leads me to my next question, brother.
yes.
On that journey in Egypt,
Mm.
what moment changed you the most?
What moment changed me the most was I don't know. It was interesting because this was after the pyramids, after having also the conversation with my uncle as well. It made me realize that it's like a spiritual awakening in a way of, I now know what I need to do, and there's nothing that's going to be stopping me from doing what I need to do, right? And especially with the plans in 2026, obviously there's going to be a lot happening. In the amount of guests that I've got lined up for July with my show as well, it was just, I now know what needs to be done, and now I just got to take on that journey. I just got to basically enjoy it at the same time, and really just live life to the greatest way I know how. And now I just feel more powerful than I've ever felt.
All right. So that's pretty amazing, bro. You are a very powerful person, bro. I don't like, your intro on your podcast, man, is very, very true. So, like when I was first watching you, I'm thinking to myself, I could resonate with that, but knowing you as the person, I really believe that, man. So what's one thing people always get wrong about you?
That I'm way too nice. They're confusing the nice guy with the good guy, right? Now, okay, I'm gonna say this. I used to be a nice guy. I used to wanted to be the best person in the world. I had that effect when I was in kindergarten. I wanted to be the best person in the world. But when you're a child and that young, you don't know what that means, right? So you are going to understand that not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to hate you. Not everyone's going to be there for you, but not everyone is going to, try to ruin you. People are trying to help you in ways that they know how. And you just got to not allow ego to be in the way, or let pride to be in the way, because I've always hated the Arab ego. The Arab ego is the I'm better than you mentality, which I've always just despised, and that's where it's being on the journey with God has really just helped me and humble me, and just be like, listen, you can serve, you can be kind, you can do your best for people, right? But then when they cross you, look, you have a right to be angry, you have a right to be emotional, but keep that in a short period of time. And then whatever happens to that person will happen to that person, because even evil destroys itself.
Once it's truly exposed.
Correct. And eventually it will, And then I'm a good guy because I'm very honest. I say whatever it is that to my best of my ability, of course, right? Just because I have an opinion doesn't mean I'm right. Just because I'm telling you the truth doesn't mean it means it's the truth itself, right? Because there's 3 sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth.
So, would you say that that breakup that you had in 2014, that turned into the greatest weapon for you?
It was the thing that was planting the seeds. Absolutely. It was the thing that started it off. It was that little spark in the fire that it was really slowly started to burn bright. And I've always been like a self-aware person. Like I've always been observing. I've always been like, why is this happening and stuff like that? Because again, going back to when I was a kid and wanting to be the best person in the world, was I always see mean people. I always see not just kids, but also adults too being mean. And I never understood why. And I think I never wanted to be like that. I didn't ever want it to be a bully. I never wanted to be I never wanted to destroy someone just because to make me feel better. I never wanted that. But it's crazy how even with us adults, we're still going through bullies ourselves. And as much as we want to take matters into our own hands, it's like, well, no, that's not what Jesus did. Jesus has taught us that we have to love our enemies, right? And God will deal with them when it's their time.
Amen to
Right.
that.
And I've seen, and Zeus, man, I've seen so many people that have basically had to face God in different ways. And then you realize like they've become lower, bottom of the barrel. And when they used to be high in praise, and now they're bottom of the barrel.
Right.
And because karma does exist. Karma does exist.
Exactly. So when did you realize that you were a storyteller?
I was always, music plays a massive role in that as well, because I would always listen to a lot of rappers who they were storytellers, like E40, Lil Kiki, Slim Thug as well, Zero as well. There are so many artists out there that are still storytelling to this day. But it's not just telling the story, it's helping someone create the story in their mind as you're explaining it, because anyone can say, I bought this and, but it's like, no, it's like you got to try to explain it in a way that you got to bring the people with you on that journey. That's the art of storytelling, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you look at Tupac, you look at Biggie, you look at, Nas, they're one of the greatest storytellers ever. They know how to, the KRS-One as well, they look at those types of rappers that know how to tell a story and take the journey with you in the art of poetry. And if you can do that, then that's when people will see you as, this guy's very smart, this guy's very emotionally intelligent. And it was I would say that with my storytelling, it was a lot of what's it called? It was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of trial and error to help me understand, how do I tell a story? What are the key points of what I'm trying to talk about? And the most importantly, I have to know what I'm talking about. Like before I even speak, I'm like, and I tell a story, it's like, well, am I going to listen to this story? Same thing when I was telling you about when you started this podcast. I'm like, are you going to enjoy it? Are you going to recommend it to other people? You know what I mean? And if you believe in it, then there are people going to be on board, and slowly people are going to see that.
Exactly. I've always believed in myself. I've always believed in my story, especially in the journey of hip hop as well. That shaped me throughout my life. I definitely understand what you're saying in regards to believing in yourself. There would have been a lot of times when you doubted yourself and doubted your existence on this earth, like I have personally as well, many, many times. And, because the nice guy always gets trampled on. The nice guy always gets abused, either physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or financially, or both, or all the above. What was the moment that you realized, bro, truly realized that, you're going to create Real Talk with Labzy?
I would say it wasn't necessarily Real Talk with Labzy, but it was something that involved TV or radio or voiceover or anything like that. I would say when I was still a kid but I believed that, because I originally wanted to be a Hollywood actor, right? And then I found out, what really goes on in Hollywood and stuff like that, which kind of turned me off a little bit. But I had a lot of compliments of saying that I've got that radio voice, I've got that radio personality, as well as the TV presence. They can see that within me. And because I don't really speak like every other Middle Eastern that you see on the streets and stuff like that, and the reason for that was because that when I didn't finish school, again having that mentality on, oh my God, I'm gonna think I'm gonna be one of those Habibi bros and da da da. I didn't want to sound like that, because I just felt like it wasn't professional. It just doesn't sound good, right? And I thought to myself, no, I need to learn how to speak in a way that sounds inviting, sounds intoxicating, right? So I would watch a lot of such as, well, not British shows per se, but shows that have British energy, we would say, like Frasier. I don't know if you remember the show Frasier.
Very, very well.
Yeah, so that was my go-to series, was because that It was intelligent. It was on the funny side. The sarcasm was something that I really loved as well, you know, because it kind of catches people off guard. So, and also, but the way they spoke in a sense of presence can really make you think, wow, I really want to listen to this guy, because I wanted to be taken seriously. I want to be treated like I'm taken seriously. And me as a Middle Eastern, I refuse to dress like every other Middle Eastern. I refuse to have what a typical Arab looks like. I wanted to just be me. And I wanted to be an intelligent person. I wanted to be a presence that was very powerful, not in an egotistical, oh, I'm better than you kind of way. No, that you are going to remember me by the end of the night kind of mentality.
Right. Well, I think we're similar like that. Right.
Yeah. So watching specific shows plays a role in that, as well as, you know, watching podcasts and watching helps YouTube, because YouTube was always my library, right? And what's interesting is that because I wasn't really much of a big reader. Like I wasn't really good at reading, not because I didn't like reading, but it's just that my brain wasn't my brain would work faster than my mouth, basically, right? And so that's why, like, I didn't have much patience for reading, not because I didn't enjoy it. It's just that my brain wasn't, you know, was capable of the patience of it. So that's why, like, videos were more effective, was because that, you know, things were happening, things were going on, and while someone was talking, I would look at other things, but I'd still be listening, you know? So I think it's like an ADHD thing. I don't know. But what I can say is these elements played a massive role in wanting to be better, wanting to speak in a way that sounds like, you know, these people can take me seriously, as well as, you know, like, wow, like, you know, people could come to me for advice or wisdom or whatever it is. And I was very happy that when that started, that's when I'm like, yep, I'm going to maintain this, because it's me, it's evolving me as a person. Right. And I've now made a vow that if I can't have a decent conversation like you and I are having, or what we generally have, then, or if ego was in the way, or people think that, oh, well, I'm smarter than you, or anything you said, it sounds dumb to me, so I'm already smart. Like, that shit is not acceptable to me. Because smart people will never need to prove how smart they are.
That's right. So a master will never have to tell you that he's a master. Others will tell you that he is.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, that's why in moments where if I do see that ego, I just keep quiet. I don't say anything, right? I just make them think that I'm very stupid. I let them think that, because I'm not going to waste my time and waste my energy on people that want me to think that I'm smarter than them or whatever. You know, like, I don't do that. I just want to do what I got to do, and I'm out.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good way to be. It's a good way to live as well. You know?
Yeah.
For the longest time, I've always had to, I always thought that I had to prove myself, and I proved myself time and time again. And I went through hell and back multiple times. And I came to the realization that it was all bullshit, man. You know, like, I don't need no outside validation. I don't need no one to validate who I am as a person. And that comes from years of struggle, years of torment, years of pain and hardship as well. Yeah, you describe yourself as a conversationalist, brother, not a journalist.
Yes, correct.
Can you expand on that a bit?
Now, the difference between a conversationalist and a journalist is that you are using outside source to find out who you think this person is, right? So if I'm a celebrity that's an actor, the journalists are gonna be like, oh, you did this movie with this such actor, this types of stuff, and they start to talk about things that you do as an occupation or a career. And a conversationalist is basically getting to know you as a person and asking questions out of curiosity. Right. So that's why I even told you as well. I said, like, allow your curiosity to create the questions, because they might be the questions that someone wanted to ask that, but you're the one that beat them to it. You know what I mean? Or if someone's watching this right now and then they know me, they're like, oh, well, how does Labzy do that? But you're about to ask that question. You know what I'm saying? Because you're curious. You want to know this. Right. But when you're a journalist, you're forced to use external sources to see who this person actually is, when a conversationalist is actually getting to know the person and really, like, working their way up towards that.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, man. In regards to how I structure this show, the Zeus
Mm,
podcast, like I've wanted to talk to you natural, like how we talk as bros naturally,
mm.
And then I've also had some people reach out to me in the last couple of weeks, and I've said, Zeus, can you please ask Labzy this? Could you please ask Labzy that? So I've kind of like integrated
Really?
into my question. Yeah, man. A lot of people want to know this, man. You're highly respected in the Melbourne scene as well. So little do you know, brother, you're on the way to become, like a legend. But you're already a legend in my books. But like a lot of people want to know, you know, what makes you tick? Who are you as a person? What your background is? I structured my questions in regards to, faith and purpose. Like as well. I know you're big on that as well. You're doing you know, the car, the cartel. Like
Hmm.
the
Podcast cartel, yes.
cars cartel, and also in regards to you know that thing you do, or is I had it written down here.
I'll be honest, I haven't touched the podcast cartel in a while because that torch was handed to me. So I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to put it, how I'm going to promote it as well. I mean, as well as me trying to promote my own show and take it to the next level as well. And yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot to work with. I mean, in 2026, I am gonna invest more into it because what I want to do with the podcast cartel is that I want to have a lot of podcast networks onto that platform and really just use the power of it to boost it everywhere and try to get a lot of attention and also say if you're a host of your show, if you need a guest on my show, from my show, whatever, I'll forward them towards you and we help each other to keep that momentum going. That's what I want. Yeah.
All right, brother, talk to me about you being the head of HR at Team Xenon.
So that was given to me by a friend of mine from Kuwait, which I met through another friend of mine, and he is the chairman. He's the chairman of Xenon Esports. So what Xenon Esports is basically like a gaming company that
Yep.
they get involved in tournaments and like gaming video game tournaments such as like COD and Valiant and these types of other games and stuff like that, and they do competitions. And what shocked me about that, and I'm very happy, is that it's very big in the Middle East. So you got Kuwait is involved, Egypt is involved, Saudi Arabia is massively involved. I think Dubai is involved in that as well. Not sure about Lebanon, I don't know, but they get into competitions and stuff like that, and it's so, so, so big. And they can win like big money and stuff like that. So when I was approached for that role of head of human resources, they said to me, and I said to him, and I said to the guy, I said, why did you want to choose me? He said, because you are very motivating. You know how to talk to people. You know how to solve problems and these types of things. And I need someone strong like you to be on that team. I'm like, sure, no worries. So when I got into it, I obviously was getting involved with meetings and stuff like that, and obviously little situations that I have to get involved with and doing and help the players feel comfortable joining us and stuff like that. And some of them would come to me saying, "Hey, Labzy, I'm going to do this. I'll have to leave, and I'll come back." I said, "That's fine, no worries. Thank you for letting me know." And yeah, and so on. So it is such a great it is a great opportunity as well because I mean it looks good on my resume, so I'm not complaining, and it does give me a good catalog as well for me to do other things, not just the podcast or the wrestling ring announcing. I'm also head of human resources for a gaming comps and stuff like that. So it gives me a long list of what I can do, and that motivates me to do more as well.
So you work with young men in esports.
Yeah, so Xenon Esports. So his name is Abdullah. He goes by I Dark Snake, and he's based in Kuwait. It's interesting because I can actually understand their Arabic because it's Gulf Arabic, right? And when they speak, I'm like, and then when I talk in Arabic as well, they understand me, and I kind of understand them as well. Like I get like what they're trying to say. It's
Exactly.
interesting.
All right, beautiful. So if every lost young person could hear one message from you right now, brother, what would you tell them?
Always learn to trust yourself because you're never always going to get it right.
Trust yourself.
You have to trust yourself, man, because think about it like this, Habib. We are here for a short time, not a long time, right? And we have to do our very best to find whatever it is that we are looking for that brings us to what makes our soul alive, right? And we also have to always be kind to others. Don't ever have that ego, even towards your enemies. Like, do your very best and not to have that spiteful or hatred in your heart. Like, you're allowed to have the emotion, but don't make that a part of your personality.
Right, exactly.
You know? So I would say that's the best advice I can give.
Beautiful. So what conversation are you preparing for yourself? One you haven't had yet?
Well, when I do get into a relationship, that's the conversation I have to have with myself, because that's going to be something that's going to be a responsibility that's beyond every other responsibilities. Right? So that's a conversation I need to have, and really just, again, as I was saying before, be the man that a woman is praying to God for.
So what do you think those values are?
Those values are being present, being supportive, being also be strong, as well as being obviously compassionate as well. Those are the values that I try to do, especially because when it comes to my niece and nephew, I try to be a parent type, because they're my god kids as well, right? So I do have the responsibility for them too, and they are a blessing because they teaches me how to speak to them and really hear them. Right. So, I mean, look, I know it is different because, if they act up, I could just give them back to my sister, right? I'm basically renting those kids, right? But, but also it has opened my eyes of what it's like to really be a parent, and what the child is doing, what they can do and stuff like that. And the values I would say is that you really have to teach them, no matter how much they screw up time and time again. You have to be patient with them. You have to, I don't care if you said to them 1,000 times, tell them another 1,001. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's the way you talk to them as well, like my mum growing up to me, she would pretty much like try to sit me down, talk to me nicely as well. But she had a lot going on. We were working 3 or 4 jobs at a time. My brothers were, as much as I love them, but were, stuffing up on drugs and shit like that. So she didn't have time to really speak to me in a way that where I thought was correct and true. So it was pretty much rushed. It was pretty much like, like forceful type of thing. It wasn't, let's sit down, Habibi, this is what you do here, this is what you do here. It's like, nah, what the fuck are you doing,
Yeah. Straight to the point.
Straight to the point, and that's pretty much the Arab way. You know what I mean? That's what fucks up most people growing up with Arab parents as well. Is like, and it also builds strength too. Like you got to hand it to them as well. Like discipline does it depends on what kind of discipline you're talking about, but not the physical. She never hit us or nothing like that. More afraid of her psychologically but that's what we respected as well. She was our mom. She was our leader after my father passed away. So I got to take my hat off to all the real women out there who are trying to raise kids, but they have to be tough sometimes. You can't just let kids do whatever they want, especially if you have girls in the family too, because once you let them, have whatever they want or do whatever they want, some things that you can't take back. And pregnancy is one of those things.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely, man. And even my mom as well. Like my mom was doing her very best to give us the wisdom that we wanted. That's why I always looked out. That's why I have a great relationship with my mother, and we muck around and stuff like that. She hits me sometimes still, but just out of love, you know what I mean?
Yeah. She can't really, you know what I mean? But definitely.
Yeah. Of course. And I love it. What's a trait that I respect in a man or a woman? Okay, we'll start from a woman. Now, a woman that I would say what I respect about her is that she doesn't follow exactly like every other woman does, whether it's going into leading to OnlyFans and disrespecting themselves in that way. And because I have a friend who does cosplay and as well as like gaming and stuff like that, right? And a few of and she used to live in South Melbourne, but she lives in Miami now with her husband, right? And the reason why she does it was because that, again, that was her calling, that was what she wanted to do. She made the decision to live in America for that, and she's doing very well. And the part that I respect to her the most is that she doesn't wear anything revealing with her cosplay. Nothing.
For those who don't know what cosplay is, can you just briefly describe it?
So what cosplay is it that you would get either your favorite cartoon character or a character you see in a movie or whatever, and you would design the actual costume from that, right? And you would go to either Comic-Con or Oz Comic-Con or even PAX as well, these type of events. And everyone would be doing it, and then which does create conversation. It does create community. It does create unity as well, especially in that field. And she loved her Mortal Kombat kind of cosplay. She loved her, what's it called? Also others like Assassin's Creed and so much more. She's been recognized by Ubisoft, which is a huge gaming company in the US, as well as obviously here as well. So she's been sponsored. She's been sponsored by Warner Brothers as well, which is such a massive thing, right? Even the creator of Mortal Kombat follows her on her socials. So he knows who she is. And that's such a big thing, And she's even met a few celebrities. She's met T-Pain as well, because fun fact, T-Pain's daughter is actually a fan of her as well, which is absolutely crazy, right? And again, she's doing it in a respectful way. She doesn't have to try to be sexy or whatever. She does it because she believes in what she's doing. So that's the respect from the woman, right? Respect from a man is that he does what he can. He doesn't hurt anybody. He doesn't get out of his way to hurt people. He is always kind, always does what he feels is right, whether if people agree or not, whether if I agree or not, right? And they learn to trust themselves and do what they got to do. Again, just don't harm anyone. Don't have that hatred. Just basically follow the examples of what Jesus taught us, basically.
Right. I understand that. So what's pretty much just like, just don't be a dick, really. Just be a gentleman at all times.
Normal, basically.
We gotta define it these days, because up is down and down is up, and normal isn't normal anymore, but our world, our realm has been changed. So we got to sort of go back to the basics and try to explain it to people, because our normal, or my normal, so I'm a little bit older than you, brother. Yes. My normal, a lot different than probably your age normal, or the generation after you is normal, So we got to define that and explain that in order for them to get some clarity as well.
Yeah, of course. And also help them understand what obviously the generation differences, obviously between yours and mine. There are moments where I can be a child. I love my video games, but you may not. You don't find it very, very interesting. But for me, it's everything, right?
I grew up with Mario Brothers as well. Brother.
Hey, man, come on now. So, yeah, look, just be normal in a sense of be kind, be respectful. Just do what you can, and don't carry and the one thing I really just detest is that when people take their anger out on other people, that has nothing to do with the situation what you're angry about. That's the part that pisses me off the most, right? And they take it out on other people. They take it out on their children. Again, they're unhealed wounds. They take it out on other people.
Unhealed generational trauma. And that's the biggest thing that I've found in this day and age, is that most people are just floating through life, doing harm onto others, and they probably don't even know that they are doing harm. That's normal to them. Really, it's the majority of the times, like what you said, it's unhealed generational trauma. So how does a person become healed? How do they break the chains?
I'm gonna say this: no one will ever be healed. No one can ever fully heal. Here's the thing. Because we can never kill our demons. We can only learn to live above them.
What do you mean by that?
We learn to live above their we have to acknowledge that there are demons everywhere, right? We just have to learn and also master how to not allow them to consume us, to be better than them and reject them. If you look at from the Bible, when was it Paul? I think it was Paul, was telling Jesus, please don't do this. Don't worry about being on the cross. And he goes, get away, demon, get away, Satan. right? Not but as much as Paul was trying to protect him, but in reality, Paul was trying to stop Jesus from fulfilling the promise, fulfilling the prophecy, right? And Satan was working through that, right? So when you learn to live above him, that's when you're like, okay, that's how I'm leaning towards staying blessed, staying kind, staying trustworthy, staying that. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to destroy that, right? You don't allow evil to destroy you. That's you living above your demons.
Yeah, but more to the point as in how do people do it? So for those who are watching, how will do it? Like, does it involve, self-reflecting? Does it involve like, while that's happening to you, do you analyze what you just did, or do you do it in a moment? Do you do it afterwards? Does self-reflecting or analyzing help?
It's when temptation comes at your door. Are you gonna invite that temptation in, or are you gonna close the door in their face?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. Sometimes temptation comes in many forms and ways, like that's what the trick the devil plays on pretty much the whole of mankind. Sorry, they comes in a way where it's pleasurable and it's fantastic and it's beautiful, like you said before. Just because something or someone is beautiful on the outside doesn't mean they're beautiful on the inside.
Correct. So that's when we have to look at the situation and be like, you know what? Is this actually this temptation that has been presented? Is it actually worth it? We have to stop and think sometimes, right? Legendary Michael Jackson said it. Remember to always think twice.
No, think twice. Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And then when you think twice with every situation, that's when you'll that's when you'll know, okay, is this the right decision or not? Because again, temptation, as you said, it comes in many, many forms. It comes in many objects, pleasure, etc. Right? But does the temptation benefit me in the future? Does it help me grow? Does this temptation actually make me feel better all the time? That's the question.
But see, sometimes people even myself,
Yes.
I'm it all the time. Like, you probably see me having a couple of smokes now while we're on this podcast. So there's still a few things that I'm still yet to overcome as well. Me being put I am, as much as I've spiritually healed and destroyed my generational trauma, there's still some things that I'm still trying to improve. Like that, for instance.
But see, this is where you have to ask yourself, because now obviously you have a family, you have kids. It's like, well, is me, for example, with cigarettes, right? Because I've been around smokers my whole life too. And just as Jacqueline said, always consider the repercussions of temptations, right? There's always a cost. There's always a cost. With smoking, for example, that's killing your lungs, right? And I know people that are younger than you, Habib, that are basically my age, smoke a pack a day, and they're forced to have that thing. Oh, it's like a mask thing. It's like a machine to help them breathe properly. And they're in and out of hospitals all the time because they're not understanding the repercussions. They would rather use temptations to calm them down and instead of working how to live above that. And again, like, well, the reasons why you smoke, that's none of my business, but and for whatever reason you started smoking was because you found the reason and you went with that. But for me, any decision that I make, there has to be repercussions. There has to be like, okay, if I do get this, if I do get sucked in the temptation of this, is it beneficial? Is this going to make me feel happy? And if it does make me feel happy, for how long? Right? Example with your kids, right? Yes, it is. There's a difference when you have kids, right? They're the ones that make you happy forever, right? Yes, they're going to challenge you. Yes, they're going to, test your patience sometimes. Yes, they're going to always listen to you and love daddy all the time, right? Of course. That's not really a temptation. That is a blessing. Understand the difference between the temptation and blessing.
Yeah, see, I understand the difference, but, I'm not trying to make any excuses, but the life that I've lived, like I should have, I shouldn't even be here today. There's a lot of things that I'm still dealing with and still unhealed as well. So it's still an ongoing process. What you're saying before, like how you have to rise above the demons. I don't think we can ever, I don't want to rise above the demons. I want to destroy these demons. I want to destroy it. It's very hard. I've been trying to do it for the longest time. I'm 45 now. So, I should have been on much heavier shit than I am
Yeah,
now. That
of
smokes is
course.
very least for me. Still helps me in certain ways where I think it's helping me, but it's probably not. But
Mhm.
same token as well, it's more of physical thing for me. I've tried everything like patches, specialized, like pharmaceutical shit. None of that worked for me. I've tried everything except what's it called, hypnotherapy. I think that's the next step that I'll take. But in regards to someone who's dealing with a lot of heavier shit than what I am, cigarettes are the very least of my worries. Who are trying to deal with a lot of heavier shit. What's your advice to them?
Keep fighting and keep thinking of people who love you. Keep thinking about the things that bring you joy into your life. And that will be, and you have to train your mindset to be like, no, the more I get sucked into temptations, the more the blessings are going to fade away. Because
Really?
anything you do now does affect your kids, regardless if they're in the room or not. If they're in the house, they can hear you. With the cigarettes, believe it or not, they're most likely going to smell it too. And you don't want that for them, Habib, because they're seeing the kids you've seen, they're beautiful children, man. They're blessed, man, to have a father like you.
God bless you. I bet, like in English, it means God bless you. One day, hopefully, you'll have kids of your own as well, and you'll know what it's really like. Like I know you're gonna be a great father, brother. But I have a feeling that your first child's gonna be a girl, brother, for some reason.
Oh man! I've even said this for the longest of time. I said the first I know for a fact I'm going to get a girl. I know this for a fact. I know this for a fact. So
Yeah, no, even my kids have told me, like yeah, they definitely want me to stop smoking as well, and they're encouraging me, and that helps me to quit. But then, you know, also what I do for a living as well, because I'm a traffic controller by trade. I just don't do the hip hop thing. For those that don't know, I'm also a traffic controller, so I'm inches away from death every day. You know what I mean? And it's hard to stay sane in a really crazy, fucked up world, man. Especially when people that don't value the sanctity of life would rather run you over than have a bit of respect and slow down.
yeah,
And kind of sort of, yeah, it gives me perspective on life itself. But in general, like I wanted to keep this going in a productive way as well. Questions that I wanted to ask you, my brother, like who was the first person that ever believed in you?
it was actually my cousin in Sydney. His name is, he goes by Eddie, New Age Poet. He's basically the only family member that's not in Melbourne that has motivated me and let me be me. And basically in your generation that believed in what I do, right?
So he's your actual,
And sorry?
is your actual cousin?
Yeah, he's my actual cousin. So my first cousin, yes.
Yeah, cousin.
Right. And he's also a rapper. He also is would say we even say he's an entrepreneur. Like he does business with his brother as well as, he does music. Obviously his album's about 90% finished. And yeah, so and him telling me that you just learn to trust yourself and focus on yourself, and is another way of Jesus speaking to me through him. And knowing that you at least have one family member that believes in you and what you do. And because I actually called him on Thursday as well, and he said to me straight away, he goes, "Hey bro, look, you've been really busy." I'm like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I can tell in his voice that how proud he is of what I'm doing because he was the one that motivated me." And it was crazy because even when I was a kid and when I went to Sydney to see family, he would actually notice the potential I have. And he knew this potential probably when I was maybe 7, 8 years old. And again, knowing that you've got someone in your family that sees you, motivates you, and just not pay attention to dumb shit, it works.
That's a beautiful thing. So if your future wife is watching you right now, what kind of woman are you looking for?
Woman that can text me back. That's we're off to a great start. But no, I would say I would want a best friend as well as a lover. I would want someone to be the mother of my children. I want someone to make me basically be my cheerleader, be my number one support system as well. And because that will be motivating me to keep going. Right. And And I mean, look, there's going to be situations where that person has to adapt to my lifestyle and I have to adapt to their lifestyle, but that's all part of the relationship and growing and with each other, as well as just not change the person. No, I don't want her to try to change me at all. You know, I just want her to let me be me, because I'm still evolving as a person. I'm still doing what I got to do. And if they can do that, then I'll give them the world. Let me be me.
That's
so much.
Again, going back to our conversation about temptations as well, Sister Jacqueline commented, always consider the repercussions of temptations. Is it worth the effects?
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, look, when it comes to temptations, for me, I mean, look, I'm mostly invisible in terms of, like, people wanting to sleep with me and stuff like that. I was never like that. I just feel like if I do sleep with someone, it's someone that I'm actually in love with, not someone that I'm just trying to have fun with or whatever, because I don't see the fun in that. I really don't. Because if I'm sleeping with someone and never seeing them again, people don't realize I'm giving a part of myself to that person that I'm never seeing again, and that causes missing pieces within people, right? When people do that, especially if you look at like people that have sex addictions, right? People that are addicted to sex, they don't realize how empty those types of people are. I've had people that have come up to me and say, I said, bro, because you're not. You are basically trying to fill a cup that will never be full. Never. That's the reason. Like, and you think sleeping around is going to fix it. No, it doesn't. Because there's a lot of trauma there.
Yeah, exactly right.
They all have consequences. Every single decision you make in your life has consequences.
Right. Some worse than others, though.
Right. That's correct. Right. Do they have benefits? Do the consequences have benefits? That's the question you have to ask yourself. In the world of smoking, yeah, the consequences are, but there's no long-term benefits. There's no long-term gain. There's only harmful gain, So that's how I see it.
Beautiful, man. That's amazing, man. I loved your worldly perspectives about things, man. It feels like you're an ancient soul.
I hope so. Because I feel like for the longest of time, I've always felt like I do have a purpose in this life, and God has chosen me to do this. And the amount of battles, the amount of situations that I've been into has really shaped me to be the man I am today. And this is without having any drugs, never touched marijuana in my life. I don't smoke cigarettes. I have cigars occasionally, but I don't inhale that, obviously. Shisha, again, once in a blue moon. Yeah.
Well, you're the Egyptian, man, so shisha comes hand in hand.
Yeah, it does.
What's one thing you would want to get out to the world right now?
60 seconds to live, and what I would get out or let out into the world right now. I would say that after I leave, I want you to remember the examples that I gave, and also I want you to do your very best to live above your temptations, as well as focus on what's important and how it benefits others, because that's going to make a massive impact on your life.
It's very profound. That's very profound. It's been an amazing podcast. I really appreciate your feedback on a lot of this, man.
I appreciate you, Habibi. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
And brother, you deserve everything good that's going to come to you in the future as well. And by the sounds of it, man, you're headed for greatness yourself, So I just want to thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody that's going to be viewing this. God bless you. And inshallah, we'll talk very soon.
Yeah.
And I hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks for joining us for the Zeus Podcast. And I'll see you guys next time. Brother Labzy, God bless you. Thank you, man.
God bless you all. And see you, everybody.